All right. Let me go ahead and introduce myself. I'm David Murphy. I have worked with Rob Booker and have traded alongside him for the past 4 years. Um, Boss Hog, good to see you here. There's a lot of people that I do know here, and I've done a few of these with Rob. And would like to get Ariel to come on if he could, but if he can't make it, we could just do a Skype on there. Anyways, um, glad to be here. I One of the things that I really like about support and resistance is it's so dynamic and it works on any time frame chart. And I don't know what time frames that Rob always liked to use. I think he liked to use the longer time frame charts, meaning the 4 hour or the daily and so forth. Um, I like to use support and resistance, especially the two trendy systems that we've been talking about and the ones that we sell the DVDs on. If you haven't had a chance, please go to the fxstreet.com, and I think we can type in a URL for those DVDs that talk a lot about and show good examples of support and resistance trading. And anyways, can you guys, are you guys all able to see the, I know it sounds okay, you're able to see the chart. We're looking at the euro dollar, the 4 hour. Okay, great. Fantastic. What I'm going to do is, this is the 4 hour on the euro dollar. And I just, I just popped this up. And what I'm going to do is finish doing a trend line. I erased it. When I look at a chart, in fact, I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to just kind of tell you a little bit about what I look for. I am a weird guy, and I like to just press, I like to scroll back on my charts, and I like to press the forward button and move it forward. And I like to view the charts as, I'm kind of weird, as like kind of a river. It's two-dimensional, but if you peel back the charts and the candles to see what's behind that price, what's all making that price, it's total chaos. And so we have to look at what price is at and what it represents in a very primitive two-dimensional way. And you know what? That's okay. Trend lines are a good way for me to look at these, and I look at these charts and I look at the candles and I just draw some lines, and I've back tested this, so for me it's a good paradigm or a good way of looking at the charts. And it doesn't mean it's absolutely correct, doesn't mean that it's the total perfect way to trade. It's just the way I look at it, and I work within that framework, and everybody needs to have their own framework. That being said, what Rob and I like to do, and I learned this from Rob, but I like to take trend line and just draw it. Now, it's not perfect, but I can see this trend over here. I can see that it looks like this, this is the euro dollar. It's been going down for a while. I think it's going to correct myself. So I can see that there is some resistance up here. It's not the perfect trend line that I've drawn. It's gone through the tops of some wicks. But then I'm going to draw another one down here. And I'm going to color this one, the baseline. I'm going to color it green. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this before. But what I like to do, and you've seen this before, is I like to wait for a break of one trend line and go towards another one. You can draw these horizontal, you can draw these on diagonal, you can do loop-de-loops, although I don't think that would be very useful. But here's what I'm looking at with the euro dollar. If it's going to break, or if it's going to reverse, and these trend lines, what these are counter trend trades, meaning the trend has gone down. We know that the euro dollar has been going down. It's been slammed. And is it ready to go back up? I don't know. Some people think it is. Some people think it isn't. But what I like to do is go against the trend. So if this pair, and this is the 4 hour, if it's going to go and close above this area here, which is at 43.83, for me, that if it closes above that, that's a trigger that I'm going to buy it. And if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to put my stop loss down below the recent low that it made, and I'm going to target this area here, this green line, the 46.91. Now this, as it looks right here, if I was going to put my stop below here, That's at 40.42. That's below the recent low, and maybe it would be a little bit lower than that. And then it's going to close up above, what is it, 44.23? That's huge. Is that risk to reward ratio worth it? If this is my target, 46.91, gosh, that's okay. That might be okay. Maybe that's not quite 1-to-1 or anything. But that's what I'm looking for. And if I don't like that risk to reward ratio, I can do two things. One, I can get out and not take it, or I can maybe get in a little bit earlier. So let's cover that. Harley asks, do you use any other indicators for confirmation? Yeah, sometimes you can use other indicators, but for the most part, I like to keep it simple. You can use moving averages. You can use pivot points. Some people like pivot points because if there's a missed, weekly or daily pivot, usually a pair goes back to that. And if there's a pivot point up here somewhere, then I know that it's probably going to jump up to get it. But to tell you the truth, I like to use this very simply, just support and resistance. Okay, Avi, I am on the 240-minute or the 4-hour. Glad you're here. I can see this. Do you use any other indicators? Was another question. And how well does this work on smaller time frames, like on the 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute? Tell you what, Harley, I've used it on the 30-second chart, a 30-second chart with Owanda, and it's a blast. It's like a video game. Now, if you want a video game where you lose money or win money, that's great. I always I manage my risk and I trade a small lot, and it was fantastic, and I actually made money. So awesome. 4 hours, good. I like long term because it gives you time, to look at it, to do it, and I can just set it and forget it because I often can't spend a lot of time on the charts. Now, as I was saying, if the risk to reward ratio isn't fantastic, you might just drop the trade or you might lower the time frame. Donica says, can you put the trend line anywhere else? Yes. There is no perfect way to draw a trend or a trend line. Some people do it better than others, but there's no perfect way of doing it. And so that's why we always say, try this yourself, back test it and practice it, and then you can start trading live because you got to get the hang of it. Like I said, this is how I look at the market, and this is the way I do it, and it's not perfect, but it works, and it works for me, and everybody has to make it work for them. Okay, Errol, you are here. Great. I think, you know what, I might give you a call, or you might just, if any of you guys, being that we've already started, if you have any pairs that you want to look at, just let me know. Ariel, that would be great if you could do that as well. I'm going to go down to a lower time frame. I'm going to go to the 60-minute on this pair. And as you can see, I've got these other lines here, and maybe it's, what I'm looking at, I want to see if I could get an earlier entry. So I'm not quite liking what I see here because I can't really draw a trend line. I could have a real steep trend line, something, like that, but you can see that's already passed and it's already going horizontal. So no, there's no real early entry on this pair. So if I go back to the 4-hour, what I want to do is I want to look at this and say, okay, what is a good way to take this trade? And of course, I'm just waiting for that break. And if the risk to reward is good, I'm going to take it. If not, I'm going to leave it. Got some requests for the pound dollar and the Australian yen. Okay, we can take a look at that. Just writing that down. Let's take a look at another one. There's the Swiss dollar that I can look at. Mike asks, can you discuss what you would do if the trend line continued to meander downward for quite a while? Meaning if it doesn't break the trend line, what you can always do is you can redraw them. You can redraw the trend lines. That also makes me, I can draw an extra one. So for instance, if this right here just kind of bounces off and we see some more candles going down, I can draw another trend line that's another opportunity for me to enter into the trade. which is why I like to have a close of the candle beyond the trend line instead of it just bouncing off or wick goes through it and you just get in instantly with like a pending order. I like some confirmation. It's a little bit of commitment for it to break above that trend line. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's do another chart. I'm going to go to the dollar Swiss. Okay. Here's something I'm seeing as well, and this actually started as I can see this trade. I can look and see where I want to trade without drawing any line right now. There's a few lines, and so you can understand where I'm coming from. There's a few lines that I'm going to draw. Okay, can you see that now? Woohoo! Yay for Dave, the technology of robbooker.com. Yeah, I'm the tech guy at Rob Booker's, this whole thing with Tiptopia. And I'm not a sound engineer or anything like that. So sometimes I screw things up. And I'm not a hotcom engineer either, but I'd like to see. Great. We have our baseline here. I just drew this trend line. I saw some resistance, and you know how trend lines go. I'm looking for two valleys, two bottoms, somewhat close together, but it's in a way where you can see where when it was up and going up in the trend, it had some support there, and I just drew a line. And the pair, thanks for letting me know, Boyke, that the pair is the dollar Swiss. Now here's the thing. This pair has been going up, and as I look at it now, I'm looking at different options that I could have had. If I would have gotten on this sooner, you could have drawn a trend line, another third one, a third entry on a steep level like that. And that one would have been entered in already, but so it's too late to enter the trade right now. As I see it, still got a ways to go in order to hit this entry that I drew before. Let me remove this trend line. Here's this other one right here. And as I see it, this pair could go down, and this is on the 240. This pair could go down as it breaks this blue trend line here, and it's got a ways to go. Then I'm going to trade that down towards this other one. So if it breaks this one, probably at 1.1100, so 1100, I'm going to trade it down to this green trend line, and that's at 1.0965. So that's, it's a big trade, and I want to make sure that I want to get in on that. Now, time frame. This is the 4 hour, okay, Harley, and if I want to get in on this earlier, can I do that? Because look how far it has to go. And right now, the risk to reward may not be all that fantastic. What I want to do is get in a little bit earlier, if I can, so that I can have a tighter stop, I can have a better risk to reward, and then I can maybe add to the position if I want to. And I like adding to positions. So how would I do that? Well, I'm on the 4 hour. You could go down to the 60 minute, and look at this. 60 minute. The trade almost already triggered. And I'm going to color this red. So here's one that we could look at. Okay, this is a 60 minute. Now what I did is I just did another trend line. And ideally, I just hit these two bottoms here. There's no perfect way to draw it. If I was a little bit earlier, maybe I would have tried to draw, a third one or even a fourth one up here. As you can see, it's been going sideways for a while, and now it's dropping down. Harley asked, Dave, do you ever use Andrew's pitchfork or just trend lines? Just trend lines. I'll try Andrew's pitchfork. I'll do that. I've seen it, but haven't tried it, haven't done it yet. So don't know how to use it. I've just done trend lines. Very simple. I don't need to get into, some people have lots of stuff on the charts, but trend lines work for me. It's simple, and because I can do it on any time frame, I love it. It's just absolutely fantastic. We've got this current candle on the 60 minute that is cut below this. Oh, just so you know, just so now the blue line is the baseline. Yeah, the green line is actually the baseline. Blue line is another baseline, and this red line is a trigger line. Meaning that on this red line, on this red trend line, if this pair, which is now breaking, but it hasn't closed below it, on the close of this candle, which on the hourly chart is another, it's another 42 minutes or so. When it closes below this, and it looks like it can, that's a sell trade on the dollar Swiss. I should ask how much success rate is with this method. Well, it's a really good successful method, and all I can say is, gosh, I don't know. I can give you % of what my account is up this year, or you can go to our postcards blog. I think this is what we teach with our postcards signals, and they're up loads of pips. So yeah, that's my account's up probably by 30%, 35 or so last time I checked. So and I mainly use this. I use some other methods as well, but this is very successful. Okay, got a lot of questions here. Hold on real quick and let me see if I can answer them. Do you ever buy the bounce of the trend line? Yes, I do have a method for buying, doing a bounce off of trend lines. I can get into that later. Harley asks, how can you confirm the price will not go up here instead? You don't. That's why I look for confirmation of the close of the candle. If it does return, then I'm out of the trade. I'm stopped out. Rabman Dave. Hey, good name. When you're on the 4-hour daily and talking about the 100 and plus tick stop loss, are you just counting enough wins with a high enough risk to reward ratio stop loss? Like that doesn't bother you? Yes, stop losses do bother me. That's why I like to go to a lower time frame and see if I can get in earlier on that chart somehow. So because this might have a big stop loss, if it's too big, I'm not going to take the trade. If my risk to reward ratio, say that 3 times, isn't good, then I'm out. It's just not a good trade. But you gotta. I'm just greedy. I want to get in there, so I'm looking for other excuses. And my other excuse is to go on the lower time frame chart. Now let's take a look at this example. And Boyke asks, well, let me take a look at this example, then I'll answer some questions. Okay, this is my trigger. This is my trigger line. If this pair closes below this, then I'm going to sell. Here's my stop loss. I'm going to put my stop loss up here, right? Initially, it's above the highs, and I may go up a little higher than that. But initially, my end target, my profit target, is down here at 1.0955. So that's a really good risk to reward ratio. As it comes down, as it closes down, I know it's by the round number, but I'm going to maybe add a position if it closes again below 1105, which is at the round number again. But if it's got a good close below that, I'm going to add another position to that and finally take profit down here at 0955. That's just how I trade. That's what I like to do. That's how I like to say you scale into a trade instead of, people say scale out of a trade. Why? Because I've practiced this and I've done this several times in my back testing, and this works for me. I like keeping a tight stop and then having a good reward at the end. It's just awesome. Keep a tight stop, keep your losses short and small. By adding to the position, instead of putting in, 2 or 3 or 4 lots all at the beginning and then just going for a small one, I got some confirmation. I've got some flexibility for the trade. And so as it goes in my favor, then I add to that, and that's all because I'm greedy. Okay, makes sense. Where would your stop be on the added position? Good point. I might pick some support or resistance if it goes past, for instance, here's the thing. Normally on this trade, your stop goes up at the high. But on the second position, that stop is way up there, and I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some areas, if it's broken, some areas of support. So I might put stop up above here. And anywhere that might be some areas of resistance or support, those act as walls for me, and that's going to protect my account. And on this one, right now I don't see anything perfect on it, but I may put it somewhere. If I was to go in again, I may put it up above this area here. That would be the only thing that I could think of so far. But adding to the position, I can also say, well, I don't want to risk more than 1% on my account, so my stop loss is going to be, X amount. And if you're looking at keeping your risk low on those, that's always going to help if things don't go your way. But as it goes your way, I like to add to the position. All right, we've got some things about the pair works. The pop. There's other things you can look at, price patterns and stuff. Fine. Abel says, in this case, it was because you've missed the entry in the 4 hour and you go to the 1 hour and find the entry. It's not that I missed the entry, it's just the entry is so far away. And sometimes you can't, the entry is so far away on the 4 hour. How long do you stay in the trade, hours or days? That just depends on the pair. It just depends. Sometimes it goes really quick and sometimes it goes slow. On the higher time frame charts, it's days. Even on 5-minute charts, sometimes it can be, days. And then you're talking 5 minutes too. Boss Hog. Do you ever use trailing stops or added positions? Trailing stops on added positions. I haven't done that. If I use a trailing stop, I just usually get stopped out. Unless I am up a huge amount, then I'll do it. So for me, that's at least 125 pips. Huge amount, not huge for some people, but for me, on some of these, when it's up that much, that's pretty good. It's gone down that much in my favor. It's not bad to put a trailing stop in after that. Does it happen that your added position stops out, but the original position stays, so you basically break even? Last time that happened to me, that it stopped out, there's a few times that it does that if I didn't do my stops right. And it's not that I break even, I just keep that other one going, and then as I see it going in my favor again, I'll look for another excuse. So if I'm getting whipsawed or something, that doesn't happen very much on these. I haven't seen it happen very much. Great. So this is how I would trade this pair, and I would have my stop loss up above here, not quite at, what was that, 1371? Wouldn't quite have it at that, maybe a little bit above that. But this one looks like it's ready to trade, and if this candle closes below, that's something that everybody here can do. Let's take a look at another one. I'm going to look at, unless you guys have any other questions on that, I'm going to change and look at another pair. All right, this is a 15-minute, but it's I want the longer term. 15-minute looks interesting too. Great. Let me refresh the camera on this. Okay, are we back? Can you guys hear me? You probably shouldn't see anything yet. Binoculary. Oh, good. All right. I'm going to switch this over here and minimize this over here. Okay. Cam is okay. We're okay now. So you guys can see this Australian dollar, US dollar type dealio. We're on the 4 hour with the Aussie dollar. Chart's okay. Great. Wonderful. Any ideas of where you guys want to draw this trend line here? Here's what I'm looking for. It's not all perfect, but it's my trend line. This is my world, where I draw my trend lines the way I like them. You can draw them any way you darn well please. Okay, that's my baseline. And let me do one thing over here. Trend properties. Extend right. Okay, it's extended right. Okay. So as I move forward, if I was to drag this around, Yeah, it's moving forward. Great. I have a trend line. Aussie dollar has been going down, right? It's in a downtrend. And may it correct? It may. So here's another one. Very simple, people. This is the 4-hour. Now, this is a buy trade. Now, Hardy saying, why wouldn't you want to draw it from underneath? That's really good. It's a good quote, good question. What I want to do is just identify which way I think that the trend is going, and I'm looking on the longer term, on the 4-hour. I think that it's been going down, for a longer time. If I wanted to look at, and there's other ways to identify trends, but if I go to the daily, and I look at the daily, you can see on the daily, this baby's been going down a long ways, hasn't she? So she's been a naughty Sheila. Sorry. So that's how I determined that it's a downtrend. There's other ways. You can use moving averages. You can use, whatever you want, but you keep within that framework, of how you view what's a downtrend, what's an uptrend. Back test it. Make sure you test it, and that's your framework. If you want to do it according to moving averages, fine, you can do that. But now look at this. Okay, so here's on the 4-hour. I've done that trend line. I can draw another one. In fact, I'm going to go to the 60-minute on this one. And look. This isn't perfect. But, you can do, there's some trend lines there, or you could have drawn it more like, let me see if I can do it. You don't always, and I know on our postcards blog, it shows that, usually you draw it from this one, and then you draw it down to here. Something like that. You could have done that. If we were in here before, are you suggesting that we short the Aussie dollar? No, this is a buy. This is a buy. If I would have been in here earlier, I probably would have done a trend line like that, and then I would have been in the trade. But I'm not. So if you go down on, you see this potential trade on a larger time frame, you're getting the general direction that you want. The trade or not that you want, you're not going to impose your will on the market, but the general direction that you think that this pair is going, and then you're going to do the opposite. So you think that this pair is the end of the trend, that this is a counter trend system. You think that it might be popping up again. Well, let's look for some signs of it. Let's draw some trend lines. If it's going past, you're drawing a line. If it goes past that line and makes some commitment, meaning it closes above that line, hey, that's a trade. And if this one would have been, if I would have drawn it like this, I would have been, doing a buy trade, and it's just kind of going sideways. So I probably would have been, oh man, maybe I was wrong. I don't know. But since I got here late, could I be drawing it something, I'm trying to look for some tops and seeing, is there a line here? You could draw it like this. That's another entry. It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect as far as to draw your trend lines go, but it's just how you do it. So for me, if I go down on the 60-minute and I see, hey, if it closes above this line, which would probably be, if I do some crosshairs, if it closes above, it's probably going to be, I don't know, 81.37, 81.50 in that area. Closes above that, that's a trigger. That's a trigger for me. That I'm going to buy this because I'm counter trend trading and I'm buying that pair. So, see if there's any more questions. Where would you get in now? I was trying to talk to Adam. Do you prefer trend lines and moving averages to horizontal support and resistance candle patterns? It's just preference. It's just preference. If I wanted to switch this over, here's how I would do it. If I, let me just remove this. Here's how I would do it with horizontal. I'm going to squish these candles, and this is a 60-minute, all right? Here's on a 60-minute. To me, Rob Mondave, is that a good area of resistance? And this is an area of support. Here's what you can do on something like that. If it closes here above this, that's a trigger to buy. And if it closes below this, that's a trigger to sell. These are just horizontals. Yeah, channels, and we have other channels that we can do. Those are absolutely fantastic. So there's different ways. Here's another thing, and let me ask you if you like this, because this is another twist on it. Yeah, I do use channels. Adam, yep. Here's another thing. What if you did this? Close above this trend line here, and I didn't draw it perfectly, but it's looking like it might get closing. Close above this one on the 60-minute. How about targeting this here as a profit target, this horizontal resistance? You want to draw fibs? You can draw fibs. You can use pivot points as a target. You can do pivot points and using the S1, R1, all those. If it breaks one of those or whatever, that could be a trigger as well. You can do Fibonacci with retracements to see where it might go. If you want to draw something like that, you can do that. But look at this. Possible trade right here. Coming to you folks live from Pitopia. This is the Aussie dollar. And this is one that Rob Mondave and I came up with. Look at this. It looks like it's going to close up above this trend line. And maybe I could draw my trend line. So I like including the wicks. So it's coming close. Here's the thing. You're just looking at this at the price and saying to yourself, which way is it going? Which way has it been going? And is it time to reverse that? And you're just looking, drawing trend lines, because trend lines and support and resistance, in my opinion, are key. They always remember previous areas of support and resistance. You've got a lot of that going on here, and I'm going to try and trade towards those. Petamath, do you tend to draw the trend lines off the wicks or the body? I like the wicks. Yep. Yeah, Joe says there are trend lines all over the place. The trick is knowing the significant ones. Yeah, exactly. Which ones are significant? And you know what? Just depends on what you like to see. Which ones are significant and how you've practiced them. And, to tell you the truth, most of it's all managing your risk. That's why I like to scale into the trade as instead of scaling out of the trade. Because if I'm putting in, risking, 25% of my account. Some people do that actually, and I think it's crazy. They'll risk, 5 to 6 on one trade. I say risk 1% on one trade. Then, as you see it's going in your direction and that you're right, and it's confirming that you're right, add more. You're only adding a little bit at a time, but towards the end, man, it all piles up, and that's where you cash in. Great. So this is a possible trade on the 60-minute. Now, here's the thing. I had the profit target of this horizontal resistance up here, but I think if I go back, I also had another one. How did I have my blue trend line? It was something like this. I don't know. So you can draw things all over. Key is what you test, what you back test, and how you trade it. I really like this one that we came up with. If it closes above this, which is 81.23 right now, and if it closes up above that trend line, this is one that I'd like. And trading back up towards 83.98, and if it closes above that, I might even like to see going up to 84.88. That's another 100 pips, and this would be a fantastic trade. Can you please check the dollar yen? Let me check. I'll check the dollar yen. Getting there. We're getting there. Okay, this is dollar yen on the 60-minute. Look, it has this nice ugly gap. Isn't that wonderful? Like Madonna's teeth. Let's go to the 240. Okay, it's been trending down, hasn't it? I can even look on the daily. On the daily, it looks like it's been trending up for quite a while. So I'm trying to look at the overall trend, and I like on the 4-hour, it looks like it's starting to trend, like it's been trending down. And I'm not seeing anything absolutely fantastic, but just looking at things, and a lot of it's because of this gap here that happened. you've got to ask yourself, yeah, is this something that I want to, does it look pretty? Looks like it's been, yeah, I don't know about this one. You could do something like this. Looks like it started to go down. We're on the 240, so it's been a downtrend. And could it go up again? I don't know. But you could do something like this. And as that's gone down, you see that it's gapped up. If you think that it's going to keep going up, you can do another trend line. I like to do something more like that, but I don't like the way it's see it. You could do something really short, and that would actually be reminiscent of going down to like a lower time frame, seeing if it breaks that. But I don't really like anything that I see on this one. So that is a possibility. Let's try though. Somebody mentioned that they wanted, was it the Australian yen? So let's take a look at that one. Yeah, this one looks much better to me because I can see that this one has been, this is, well, not the 61. Let's go to the 4 hour. Yeah, this one looks much better. You see how this one looks as opposed to the Japanese yen that's been kind of ranging a little bit. This one I can definitely tell in the long term it's been going down really good. And this one looks much better. Somebody asked, Dave, how long did it take you to be profitable? Actually took me a couple of years, really. And it's off and on. Everybody has to take their time, margin call. And I got into this a little bit differently than everybody else. So it did take me a long time. Boss Hog, how big of a role do fundamentals have in your trading, i.e. deciding trend direction and whether or not to counter trend trade? I don't use fundamentals a whole lot. I use fundamentals as just to round out, what's going on in the market. For me, I like looking at the euro dollar. I use fundamentals to see, gosh, how far can this go? Can it go any farther? It just rounds out of what you think is going to happen in the market, but I don't base trades on it myself. Do you set entry as limit order, or how often do you check the trade? Sue, thanks for asking. Here's what I do, and I've been told I've got a few minutes left. Here's what I do is I usually, there's some indicators out there that will send you an email if it closes above or below a line. That can be very helpful, but I watch it. I pretty much watch it. And I just, if it closes, I've got Josh here with me. He will tell me, hey, Dave, this is going to close, or this is where the euro's at. And, we kind of watch our backs, but I don't have anything to really set alarms. Those would be helpful, though. Let me do this really quick. This isn't the perfect trend, but, oh, man, I kind of like this here. I'm going to do my baseline. This is Australian yen, Australian dollar, Japanese yen. And I'm on the 4-hour chart. And I'm just drawing trend lines. It really bounced down pretty steep here, and then it jumped back up, it gapped, and it's come down again. If you want to go down to a lower time frame, you could even go down to the 60, or you want to go down to the 30, which I haven't done, but it doesn't look too much different. You can try and get in on this trade again a little bit earlier with what we call the rubber glove test. Rubber glove test is you're probing it. Isn't that awful? Ah, crap. Let's do it from here. If I can draw a trend line to save my life, there it is. I'm going to draw this red. What I did is, because I'm eager to trade, I'm just looking at trend lines and areas of support and resistance that, this is going to break. And I even went down on this on the 30-minute. Overall, number one, I looked at it's been trending for a while. Number two, I draw some trend lines and see what's the opportunity for me to get in on a counter trend trade. Number three, I make sure that if I'm going to trade, my risk to reward is looking pretty darn good. And then number 4, above all, I practice. And that's it. If it closes, if this pair, and it's going down, it may go down even more. If it closes above this trend line, which right now is at 87.94, so if it goes above 87, maybe to 88, I'm looking that I might go in on a buy on this trade. Now, as you mentioned before, we did something where we, it made horizontal support and resistance. You can do that as well, however you see it. Support and resistance is king. If it breaks through one of those areas, it's like breaking through a wall. It's going to go on to the next wall. So here, my stop loss is probably going to go below in this area, below the 86.10, so maybe 85.90 or so. That's my stop loss. And hopefully the risk to reward is going to be good. As it gets inside, I could even drop down to a lower time frame, draw another trend line and see if it breaks that. Looks like it's just going down a little bit. So this one may not even trigger, but if it was to do it, right above 8,800, I'm going to go for 89.72. It's not too bad. If it goes above that, I might add in another one over here at 89.72, or if it closes above, 90, I might add another one, go for 93.01. And there you have it. So that's the basics of, and I think a lot of you guys have seen this before. You may have had a different take from it with Rob, as he's done it, but of course everybody's different. I've learned this all from Rob. Oh boy, lots of stuff been going on, and I didn't even see it. Great, I think we're done. Just one quick announcement. If you guys have not been to the ITC, the International Traders Conference in Barcelona, I loved it. And I desperately want to go back. I don't know if I will be. Hopefully I will be with Rob. But I know for sure that Rob is going to be there. Fantastic. Get there if you can, because it's more of an intimate conference. It's not like the huge ones that you see in Vegas or LA. When we were there last time, there's a lot of people there, and we broke out in teams of like 5 or 6, and we got to know the people in the conference. They got to know me. And I got to know them, and it was fantastic. So if you really want to learn, if you really want to get a good student to pupil, or teacher ratio, that's fantastic. And plus, in Barcelona is just an awesome place. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Maud, but we're going to be on the beach, aren't we? We're going to be pretty close to the beach. Very good. All right. Yeah. Ándale que sí. La playa está mejor. In front of the beach. Thank you. I appreciate your good comments. I hope that I covered some good stuff for you guys about support and resistance and how I trade it, especially with trend lines. And please don't hesitate to send me an email, dave@robbooker.com. I'll try to get to it as soon as I can and help you guys out. We do have the postcards at the Right Edge blog that's free. And thanks to Maud and everybody. Fantastic. FX Street, you guys son los mejores que hay. And me gustaría que me voy ahí en España. Thanks, everybody.